Hi everyone, it's Chris, back in the cider shed with some cider, but it's cider we've tried before. But that's not exactly what I'm interested in. I mean, I'm interested in it. I'm always interested in cider. But it's what I'm going to have with it. So it's particularly interesting. It's a cheddar, another piece of cheddar. So we're doing cheese. It's the pitchfork cheddar again. There's something interesting about this piece of cheddar. Let me show you exactly what it is. Okay, so there you go. Pitchfork cheddar. Rather majestic piece of pitchfork cheddar, but with this blue running through it. Okay, so that's an even better view of it. So there you go, some blue in it. Okay, so what's all that about? Well, traditionally you would get bluing in cheddars. Just a fact. Commercially these days you won't see them, like big commercial cheddars, rather industrial cheddars, because they're made and then sealed in plastic, hermetically sealed in plastic. Now, what causes bluing in cheeses, blue cheeses as well, is oxygen. Because these molds, these blue molds, are aerobic. They need oxygen to grow. If air doesn't get to them, they won't grow. And these molds occur all naturally, everywhere. Nobody woke up one morning and thought, I'll make a blue cheese. What would have happened is that they made a cheese. These molds would naturally be in the cheese because they're, within the environment generally. And maybe there was a crack, as you can see from this actually, there's a crack come up from the corner. That's the most common way to do it, because with these sorts of cheeses, you're turning them regularly, and they're big, heavy cheese, like 25 kilos. So if you're going to if you get an impact on the corner, you might get a crack, and then blue's going to go within the cheese. So it's pretty common to see bluing start within the corner of the cheese like that, because they do have to be turned regularly to keep the moisture evenly spread, distributed without the cheese, something giving wet bottoms. So you're turning them, you bump them, you crack them. It creates a fissure through which the air can penetrate and activate those blue molds which are in there anyway. So when you make a blue cheese, what you do is you start with the cheese, which is sealed, and you pierce it, you poke a hole in it. You don't inject it with anything, you simply poke a hole into it to let the air in to activate those blue molds. Okay. In a traditional cloth-bound cheddar, which this is, it's not hermetically sealed. Moisture can leave the cheese through the cloth, it's breathable, which concentrates the paste, but that also means that you can get air penetration, which will activate blue molds. Okay? So if you see a blue in a cheddar, which is a traditional cloth-bound cheddar, it's kind of a sign of quality. It means it's cloth-bound. People are going the extra mile. If you saw it in a hermetically sealed, vacuum-packed cheese, that would be an issue, because air shouldn't be able to get in to activate the blue molds in the first place. Okay? So we're used to seeing non-blue cheddars because we're used to hermetically sealed cheddar. Okay? I actually really like bluing in cheddars like this. It tastes flipping delicious. If you see it, try it. This is quite an extreme example. It might be too much for some people because the blue, it's penicillium, Rock 40 penicillium, I think this is going to be. It's got quite a strong flavour. But a little flash of it is brilliant. It just brings a different dimension to the cheese and makes it taste far more interesting. And the British seem to be more British, American, etc. seem to be more panicked by this sort of thing. I once saw an Italian at a cheese fair in Italy buy a whole cheddar because he tried a bit with blue in it. And he said, I will buy that entire cheddar off you, 25 kilos, if you can assure me that it will have blue in it. So I got a cheese iron out and did core samples all around it just to check there was plenty of blue in it. There was. The guy gave him 600-700 euros, walked us down the street with a 25 kilo cheese. You would never see that happen in this country because people are biased against it. The Italians are much more experimental in what they'll eat, and this guy had no preconceptions about whether there should be blue in it or not. And he liked the blue, so he bought it. It won't make you sick. It's absolutely fine. Okay? So, let's try it. The cider I'm going to try it with. So this is made at Trethowens Dairy in just near Cheddar in Somerset. And this is Ben Crossman cider. So I tried this a while ago. Todd Trethowan brought me a sample back to London from the farm. Ben Crossman cider. It's just across the field from this producer. So this cider and this cheddar are made within, I mean, you're talking about hundreds of yards of one another, basically, which is pretty cool. But I had this with the Cantal last time, which is brilliant, amazing wild cheese. And this is quite a wild cider. It worked fantastically together. I can't remember what number video it was. I'll post it up on the screen so you can go and watch that if you want. I recommend you do. It was great. But this has got like bold acidity, hint of sweetness. It's quite funky. It's what you call maybe a scrumpy, but I don't mean that in a derogatory way. it's a great cider, which is why I bought a 20-litre bag-in box of it. I intend to sell it on the market, and I think it will fly. So I went for this because it's pretty wild, pretty feisty. This is an unpasteurised raw milk cheese with some blue in it. Thought, let's try it. Okay, so let's try a bit of this blue. And you can see around the blue, actually, that the cheese has actually changed colour slightly. It's because the blue is actually breaking down the paste, releasing enzymes, breaking down fats, breaking down proteins, changing the texture, changing the pH, and releasing flavour compounds, effectively. So let's try a bit of blue cheddar, shall we? The pitchfork's a very balanced cheese. Quite a moist cheddar. Youngish, just over a year, generally. Although we're going to try some 2-year next week. I'm going to film that for the Dratham Brothers, but I might see if I can nick it and post it on here as well. More pronounced saltiness I'm getting with the blues, which is strange because they haven't increased the salting for this cheese. But for some reason I'm perceiving the salt more. There's that kind of like slight spicy metallic element you get from the blue, which is delicious. So this is obviously blue, but it's not in any way, you know, going to burn your mouth, which it shouldn't anyway. You know, some blue cheeses can do that, like can be hot and biley, which is not a nice thing. Roquefort's often actually can do that. Have a bit more. It is creamier where the blue is. The blue is there, but if you have it with plenty of cheddar, it's totally balanced. You get a bit of that sweetness, a bit of that cooked milk element you get from the cheddar as well. A little bit brothy, bouillon-y. Bloody fantastic, actually. What I should be having this is a sweet cider. Nothing at hand. Oh, well, never mind. Who cares? Let's try it with Ben Crossman cider. This is, I forget which one this is. This is the medium dry. I bet the actual name of it. The box I got it in is completely knackered. I'm going to have to rebox the bag-in box. So there's nothing on there to tell me what it is. But anyway, let's try it again. Remind ourselves. Cheers. And actually, it's funny because I think it's got pretty bold acidity. So that will be lactic acid, so malic. It'll have had some quite high acid apples in the blend. That's converted through the slow maturation through the winter months into lactic acid, which is the acid you get in cheese. So that works really well. There's sugar in there, but it's balanced massively by the acidity. In fact, it's great. You need the sugar almost. We don't need it, but it's a great balance, I would say. Traditional Somerset cheddar with traditional Somerset cider is a great them. Sweet, salty, acid, sweet, rich, fatty, but again acidity cutting through the fat. Brilliant. I mean, that's a meal in itself. You give me a hunk of bread, maybe some butter, you know, as well. I love butter. I'll be very, 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 very happy. And this blue is flipping delicious. It's absolutely flipping delicious. And I would not reject this out of hand. I'd probably go, actually, can I have that bit? Can I have that bit, please, with the blue in? Because it looks spectacular. Do not be scared of blue in cheeses like this, traditional cheeses. Be scared of them in industrial cheeses, industrial cheddars, etc. But not in these. It's absolutely fine, absolutely normal. You should expect it. All right. I think I'm getting my lighting a bit better. Head's a bit shiny still. So what? Okay, guys. That was really good. Right, well, I'll be back again very soon with some 2-year cheddar at some point as well. Look out for that. But until then, thank you for watching. Cheers.